Revelation chapter 21. We're going to look at the first 4 verses. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. I also saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared like a bride adorned for her husband. Then I heard a loud voice from the throne. Look, God's dwelling is with humanity, and he will live with them. They will be his peoples, and God himself will be with them and will be their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. Grief, crying, and pain will be no more, because the previous things have passed away. This is God's truthful and life-giving word. May he help us as we consider it together this morning. Well, aren't the final chapters of a book satisfying? You've been wondering how it's going to end, how the tension is going to be resolved, how all the obstacles are going to be overcome. And all the threads come together. There's a big reveal, right? Especially if you're reading a mystery novel. Everything's tidied up. The bad guys are caught. The couple gets married. The treasure is returned to the rightful owner. The family is reunited. You get the picture. Well, we're in the final chapters of the Bible this morning. And sure enough, the various threads of the whole book come together. They give us a satisfying conclusion to the salvation story that God is telling. And this is no fiction. This is no fairy tale. This is the true story of the world. So how is it going to end? What will life be like after this world wraps up? Where is this story going? Well, our passage tells us that it ends with a new beginning. Verse 1, then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. And here, John, who wrote the book of Revelation, is intentionally taking us back to the opening words of the Bible. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And this tells us a number of important things that we need to know about this new world to come. It tells us that the world to come is a physical world, like the one we live in. In fact, I would argue that in this vision, John sees the very world we live in. But he sees it the way it was supposed to be. The way we all wish it was. The way it will be again. Now, at this point, we need to let the Bible correct some misunderstandings about heaven. And in all honesty, we probably shouldn't use the term heaven, even though I will do it over and over in this talk. We shouldn't use that term to describe where Christians are going to spend eternity. For most people, the image of heaven conjures up a picture of floating around like ghosts up in the clouds, harps in hand, bored out of our minds. Well, this passage is going to describe something very different than that. Something magnificent, something to look forward to. And I am of the view that this is talking about the same earth that we live in right now. God created this earth for his people to live in, for his people to enjoy, and we spoiled it with our sin. I don't see any reason to believe that the world to come will be any different from our world. I think this word new here, a new heavens and a new earth, carries the idea of renewed, of being made new again. Think of Jesus after he was raised from the dead. Now, he would have been almost unrecognizable when he was put into the tomb. He had torn flesh, bruised face and body, beard plucked out. But when he came out, his friends and his family recognized him, even though something was different. And I think the same applies to the new creation. There's going to be a destruction, and then there's going to be a recreation. The new world will resemble the old. And in fact, I think this world to come is actually more similar than different. I fully expect to see Ingleborough there. I fully expect to see rose bushes and waterfalls and redwoods and birds and frogs and all of it that God created in his good creation. But there will be something different, won't there? What will be the difference? Well, the difference is found in this strange little phrase at the end of verse 1. And the sea was no more. Now, as many of you know, and you can tell from my accent, I am not from here. I'm in fact from Los Angeles. And I grew up a mere 15-minute drive from the beach. I spent my summers with sand in my hair and salt on my lips. And I come alive anytime I can smell the sea. And as Hannah will tell you, I'm always happy to visit the seaside. So the first time I remember hearing that there was going to be no sea in the new creation, I, for one, was a bit disappointed. If we take this statement at face value, it sounds like the new creation will be radically different from the world we live in. After all, 70% of the surface area of the earth is ocean. So if it's similar, then it must have a sea, right? Well, I actually think it will have oceans and lakes and ice caps and so forth. That's because this phrase here is more about theology than geography. Describing the new creation as not having a sea meant something very specific to John and to his ancient readers. The Israelites were famous for not being a seafaring people who lived on the shores of the Mediterranean. There's no famous Israeli sea battles or adventurers like there were for the Greeks and the Romans. The one exception, of course, is Jonah. That always comes to mind, doesn't it? But his experience on the sea was entirely negative, and it quickly brought him back to land where he belonged. Throughout the Bible, the sea represents all that is against God. And in the book of Revelation, the sea is where the beast, the enemy of God and his people, comes from. You can read more about that in chapter 16. So John is telling us something by using this picture, isn't he? He's telling us here that all things that oppose God will be absent in the new creation. No enemies, no sin, no corruption, no curse, no suffering, no heartbreak, no death. God will once again be able to survey his creation and say, it is very good. So let me ask you, what are you looking forward to when this short life is over? And it is short, isn't it? What do you think forever is going to look like? Well, unfortunately, many people think they get to choose exactly what it will be like. But the Bible is clear. There are only two paths. One that leads to a world where the sea is no more, and one that leads to a world where there is nothing but sea, a fiery sea, described for us in the previous chapter. None of us are at home in this Genesis 3 world east of Eden. We all have a deep longing to be where we were made for, a new heaven and a new earth, recreated, perfected, a fitting home for us to live. Now, interestingly, this passage does not spend almost any time talking about what this new creation is going to look like. Instead, it spends most of its time describing God's people. John sees the new heavens and the new earth, and then he sees, verse 2, a city. And here is another picture to help us understand what forever is going to be like. He sees the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. Now, I've lived in 3 cities in my life. Los Angeles, as I mentioned, where I grew up, York, where I met Hannah, and London, where I studied. Cities are places where people are. Heaven will not be lonely. It will be enjoyed with others. There's a famous quote, perhaps you've heard, "Hell is other people." Well, this passage tells us that heaven is also other people. So who is the new creation populated by? Well, firstly, it is enjoyed by a holy people. It is a holy city. Now, holy is a Bible word, isn't it? And it means something very specific. It means that it belongs to God. That's what the word holy means. And so the new creation will be peopled with those who are God's people, those who have been set apart, those who have been bought with a price. And in the Bible, in Revelation, those who belong to God are those who have been rescued by Jesus, those who have been bought with his blood. He is the Holy One of God who came down into an unholy world to be treated like God's enemy, to be crucified and killed as a criminal. And he did this so that you and I could be set free, so that you and I could be part of his special people, so that we could gain entrance into the new creation. So this world it's going to be enjoyed by God's people, by a holy people. It's also going to be enjoyed by a prepared people. Look at the end of verse 2. The city comes down out of heaven from God, prepared like a bride adorned for her husband. Now, I'm a great lover of the writings of Jane Austen, and you know it's a Jane Austen story if there's a wedding at the end. That's how you know. And many see this happily ever after ending as a relic of the past. It's outdated. It's demeaning even. But I think she gets it just right, doesn't she? It's not outdated. It's part of the very fabric of creation. It's the end of the big story the Bible is telling. And so what do we think when we think of a bride on her wedding day? I think of beauty and joy and dignity and love. It's a special day, isn't it? A set-apart day, a holy day. It's been said that history is the procession of Christ's bride as the church, down through the centuries, out to the ends of the earth, inevitably and surely moving towards the great wedding day when she is presented to King Jesus, her husband. And there's joy and there's celebration at the marriage feast of the Lamb. Now, maybe this marriage imagery doesn't quite resonate with you because you perhaps have experienced heartbreak, maybe in your own marriage, maybe in your parents' marriage. But this picture here is an invitation to join this procession towards the one who is worthy of your love, the one who will never let you down, the one who will never leave you nor forsake you, King Jesus. He is the one, the Bible tells us, who sacrificed himself for his bride. Unlike Adam, who at the very beginning passively stood by as the serpent led his bride and the rest of humanity out of God's special place in the garden. But Jesus is a new Adam, a better Adam, one who courageously crushed the serpent's head to take his bride to live happily ever after with him in a new garden, a new heavens and a new earth. Life in this world is supposed to be like a bride processing down the aisle. But so often, this isn't how we feel, is it? We don't see ourselves as God sees us. We look down at a filthy wedding dress, at all the sin and uncleanness that pervades our lives, our thoughts, our words, our actions. And we are tempted all the time to leave the groom standing at the altar and to turn around and run. If you're a Christian, this passage is telling you something about yourself. You still sin. You still live in a world tainted by sin, yes. But God is preparing you now for the big event. He is adorning you. He is making you beautiful, shaping your heart so that you love his Son and love his people. This is God's work, isn't it? We aren't making ourselves beautiful here. We are being made beautiful. There's no room for self-righteousness. Once you've said yes to his Son, the Father transforms you and begins fitting you for heaven. He is at work in your life, in the mundane of every day, in the seasons of difficulty, in the obstacles that you face. He is there, and he is able to turn it all to your good. So let this be an encouragement to keep going, to keep moving forward towards your great King and towards that wonderful homecoming that awaits you. I remember mine and Hannah's wedding day. Her morning was spent hours getting ready, various people helping her with makeup and hair and putting the dress on. I just showed up, as unkempt as ever. But let me tell you, it was worth the wait. She was radiant. And the church is supposed to be a people who are being made beautiful. It's supposed to be a place of joy and of love and of togetherness. If you're not a Christian, I hope you experience that this morning here with us. An imperfect people who are being adorned by God. If you are a Christian, this should be the place you want to be. When you're tempted to isolate yourself or to leave altogether, remember this picture of this wedding day approaching and God working powerfully to make it a homecoming worth waiting for. Won't you come? Revelation 21, a new beginning, a new place, a new people. Is that it? Is that all we have to look forward to in this life? Perhaps for you, that is only marginally better than clouds and harps. Well, if we think that this is all there is, a new place with a new people, then we're missing the main point, aren't we? Verses 3-4 are very great and precious promises that tell us what the main point is. Firstly, verse 3, God will permanently live among his people. This is the main point. Look, God's dwelling is with humanity, and he will live with them. God will be with us in a special, direct way. He will be our God, and we will be his people. This has been the goal of everything since Eden, that God would once again walk with his people, made in his image. No more hiding, no more shame. This is a special relationship. It's a covenant relationship, purchased with the blood of Christ, and it cannot ever be broken. A relationship between the living Lord and humanity, a people from every tribe and every tongue and every nation, people from kingdoms long forgotten, and people from our land today. There's going to be a real diversity there. not the manufactured kind our culture tries to pretend exists in our country. This isn't just people who are different living in proximity to one another. This is people who are different being made into a new humanity. There will be true unity among the most different kinds of people. And this will be a testament to God's heart, that he's not only for one race or one culture or one type of personality or any of the rest of it. He's going to gather everyone together under one banner, the banner of Jesus Christ, and it's going to be glorious. That's the first promise. God will permanently live among his people. Secondly, God promises to wipe away the tears of this life. Verse 4 at the beginning, he will wipe away every tear from their eyes. And here we see just how personal this relationship is, just how close it is, face to face. The living Lord standing in front of each of his people individually, close enough to touch, compassionately caring for them, and taking away all the heartache of this life. This is something for us to hold on to, isn't it? In the hardships of life that we live in this world. It's a promise so that we keep going. God's care for you now is the promise of a future when he wipes the tears away forever. Precious promise. Thirdly, end of verse 4, God will permanently take away all the fruit of sin. Death will be no more. Grief, crying, and pain will be no more because the previous things have passed away. As the children's book says, everything sad, everything bad, banished forever. Is that your desire? Is that my desire? Or have we become so accustomed to the curse that we just cope with it one day at a time and hold back our imaginations because it just feels a bit too much like wishful thinking? We don't allow ourselves to get our hopes up because they inevitably all come crashing down when the next difficult trial comes, making them even harder to live with. But this is no wishful thinking. We are made this promise by a God who gave his Son to accomplish this promise. We're being led in this life to a great homecoming, aren't we? To a new reality, to a new place to live with God, to live with his people forever. This is the journey we are on. Won't you come? Won't you say yes to Jesus? Won't you keep saying yes to Jesus and invite all those people in your life so that more and more people will come with you all the way home to the Father's house? Amen. Now may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you believe, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Amen.